Hi, I'm Jan. I'm the founder of Freitag Marketing. When we start conversations with contractors, with home service company owners, the big thing is they want to grow their business. And often they call us and they say, hey, I want to do Google ads, I want to do Facebook ads, I want to do SEO. What should I do for AI search? And I usually back them right up back to what their business does and what their business goals are. And that's where we get started. So the thing is, to be successful in 2026, you really have to be everywhere. It's not just enough to rank organically and to have a lot of Google reviews. It's not enough to show up in ads. It's not enough to have local service ads. They all have a place, but it is really the whole 360, I'm everywhere, omnipresence that moves the needle in a sustainable way. Because here's the thing, we can run Google ads for you or LSA or Meta ads, and they will generate leads. But the minute you stop running ads, you're not getting leads anymore. So that's not really sustainable growth, because let's say something changes on that platform, the CPL spike, suddenly your lead flow is cut off. The most important thing is to do a little bit of everything. And that sounds really weird because, we are experts in all these channels, but a lot of home service companies, they're like, I just want some leads and I'll invest in the website later. And I think that's really, really dangerous, because we're driving traffic to a website that isn't great. Now, you can build a landing page, and that landing page might be better than the rest of your website, but then that doesn't match, and that isn't a good customer experience, because in the end, customers have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touch points with your brand before they make a buying decision. And the bigger your ticket, the more touch points they want. So yes, we can run great ads, but if you don't have the Google reviews to back up the social proof, then the offer isn't as strong. If your website is hard to load on mobile, then it doesn't matter how good those ads are. And yes, you can rank organically, but if you never show up in the sponsor spots on Google that now take over half the search results, you're also hard to show up there. You can't get away with just doing one service. It'll get you so far, right? Like sometimes you don't have a choice because the investment is large. But in the end, you have to be everywhere. And everywhere, that doesn't just mean everywhere online. It also means offline. And that means branding, that means truck wraps. So if you have a logo that your second cousin made because he had a high school graphic design course 20 years ago, you might want to overthink that. And I understand that it's really hard for you to make those decisions when, money's tight and you're just starting out. You need to prioritize, what are you doing? But in the end, if you think about the marketing spend relative to your company revenue, every dollar that you spend there brings you long-term gains. Yes, a truck wrap might be $5,000, but that's $5,000 over 5 years lifetime value of that truck wrap. And you want it to be nice. Yes, you can get it with your crappy logo and not invest $2,000 in a new logo, but then you have a not great truck wrap for the next 5 years. And so it's like, where do you even start? And let me lay it out to you. You can get yourself, through local networking, through BNIs, through the local chamber, through Facebook groups, that kind of stuff. You can get yourself basically a full-time job. Beyond that is really when at some point you sort of have to bite the bullet and spend money on marketing and get it right. And getting it right is a really hard thing, because the number one thing that I hear when customers come to us is like, I've been burned by marketing agencies. They sold me an SEO, it didn't make the phone ring. They sold me on Google ads, it didn't make the phone ring. I paid this, I paid that. I'm out $50,000. I have a website right now that I don't own because the website is with another agency and they won't let me go. All of that is true, and it's horrible and it sucks. Not gonna lie, and now I'm here telling you we're different. But I think the most important question is, how do you do these things and really read your contracts and really understand what do you own? When we build a website for contractors, we built the website on WordPress. We use a tool stack within the website that everybody in the world can use. You own the website, we can host it for you, you can host it in your own servers, doesn't really matter, but if you ever don't want to work with us anymore, you can transfer it out, no big deal. It's your website. And I think that's really, really important. You should own your website, because here's the thing, if things ever go sour between your agency partner, you don't want to be tied to them. You want to make it very easy to switch over. And I think with that also comes, you should own your ad accounts. I think that's really, really important. You want to own all your marketing data. You don't want to have the agency on it, because if you own the data, then you can give that data to a different provider. They can give you their take, And in the end, you can take that account with you, because often ad accounts have valuable data that kickstart the campaign in the next round. My number one thing is, do not have your websites with companies where you don't own it, where you're basically just renting it. Now, you can pay us in full or you can pay us on a payment plan, but in the end, you own the website. It's a WordPress website. There's 300 million WordPress developers in the world. You will always find somebody that can work on our website and can improve it and build upon it. It's a very solid way to start out. Now, what do you do after that? Like, do you do bands? Do you start ads? I don't know. I would always recommend get a great wrap on your car. Now, there's a lot of different opinions. Lots of people put animals on them now. They do lots of mascots. That works sometimes really well. Some are really bold. Some are a little too busy. Like, it's hard to decide what's good. And quite honestly, you as a contractor are not the most qualified opinion. And I think that's really hard, but it's like me diagnosing a plumbing issue. Like, good luck. I might YouTube it, I might ChatGPT it, I might ask some friends for opinions, but in the end, I don't know what I don't know. And that's the same with branding. You should like your branding. You should not like your branding, because you have to drive around in that truck all the time. But in the end, I think that is a big piece of leave it to the experts and trust them, and make sure that, the values that you have for the brand and the company are reflected in the brand, and it's not silly and it's not goofy and it doesn't resonate with you. But designers know how to design, plumbers know how to plumb, and for us, we've done a lot of wraps, we've done a lot of brand designs, like we know how to do that. And so we want your input and want your feedback, but in the end, it's good to trust the experts to get it right, because we know a few things you don't. After that, build a website that matches your brand, that matches your truck wrap, because the most important piece is that there's a consistent experience with your brand across all platforms. So if you have an amazing man wrap, and then they go to a website that, again, your cousin built, and the website doesn't really say what you do, where you do it, how are people, they're like, wow, amazing wrap, but the website is terrible. And if we let's talk about investment here. This is not that much money. So a website's going to cost you, we've asked, $7,000 to $15,000, depending what we're building and how complex it is. A wrap's going to cost you $5,000 per truck, and design for it's probably going to be a couple $1,000s. For most people, that's 2 or 3 big jobs. I mean, it depends if you're in a high volume business like pressure washing, obviously, it looks a little different, but your margins are different too. So if you are, in construction, if you are in remodeling, if you are in roofing, in HVAC, it's only that many heat pumps. And so I think that's kind of how you have to look at this expense. It's okay, this website's gonna last me 5 years. This man wrap's gonna last me 5 years. This logo's gonna last me 20 years. Why not invest? Because in the end, this is not an expense, and it's an investment. And if you think about that expense over 5 years, it's not that much money. And if you think about how many customers and contacts it's going to generate, it's really, really cheap form of advertising. And so that's kind of where I would start. And then once you have a good brand, then you can lay all the performance marketing on top of that. I think that's kind of what you have to realize is the performance marketing piece works a lot better if you have a good brand. If you are very recognizable, we don't have to work as hard, because people already have touch points. They already see your vans around town. When they Google for a plumber, because they don't really recall your name, but then they see the colors, they see the logo, and they're like, oh, these guys are familiar. I've seen their trucks. That's who I should pick. That's the perfect buyer's journey, because the cheapest click that we can possibly generate with digital marketing is when people look for your brand name. And so that's really the best strategy. And it is counterintuitive, because in the beginning you think, I'll just pay for leads, very bottom of funnel, very direct. I give you X amount of dollars, you're telling me the cost per lead is Y. I know I close this many leads, my job is worth that. It's a very simple math equation. The math equation gets better though when there's a brand, because in the end, if you think about, there's a huge selection of things, grocery store, drugstore, whatever, right? And you're picking from basically the same product across many brands. Well, when does the brand, you pick Kellogg's cereal over somebody else because the brand is familiar. And that's kind of how it works too. And I think, especially if you don't want to be another Chuck with a truck, a one-man show that installs mini splits, a one-man show that does like electrical work here and there. If you want a company, if you want to build a business, you need a brand. And I think that happens way too late for too many companies. And quite honestly, I can count on like one hand the amount of amazing home service brands we have here in New England. There's not that many. And I think, and we'll exclude all the franchises that exist, and they understand this game, but that's what you do with a franchise, right? You're buying into systems, but you're buying into a brand. But systems piece, that one's hard to figure out, and it's valuable. The brand piece is really important. You want to combine brand with performance marketing, because then you have the lowest cost per lead, you have the most customers, and then suddenly people will Google your name because they see the vans, they see you sponsoring that youth team, they see you in the paper sometimes, even though not that many people read the paper anymore. Maybe once in a while they hear you on the radio. And if you want a partner that manages that entire funnel for you, from the first contact, from the brand, from the truck wrap, from your promo art, from your promo items to the apparel of your team and your staff, to the flyers and bifolds and trifolds, to your photo and expo booth, and to your digital marketing, then Freitag's the partner for you. And it's going to be expensive, but it is well worth the investment. So that's my thought on how you start and how you prioritize.